Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Walking Dead series by The Verdict's In. I'm your host, Nicole.
I'm Gary.
And today we are talking about The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. We're talking about the whole season. But before we get started, we do have a special guest that I would like to introduce. We have Shantel, aka longtime listener, aka writer of The Walking Dead, aka our unofficial third host. Shantel, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Shantel.
So happy to have you today.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me and letting me crash what is an awesome podcast. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to have you.
Very excited to have you. It's been years. How long now have we been talking and communicating, whether it's via Twitter or email?
Oh God, it has to have been at least since season 7. So 7, 8 years, something like that now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a while. Well, thank you so much. This has been a long time in the works. We've been discussing it for a while, so it's very exciting that we were able to get you on today.
It's such an honor, you guys. I am obsessed with your podcast, specifically podcasts in general. So to be here is just so cool. I'm so excited. And to talk about my all-time favorite show with my all-time favorite podcast host, let's do this. I'm excited. I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're about to get that insight.
Yeah, get that insight and knowledge from the official writer.
Oh my God.
All right, so we watched the whole season. We got to see Rick and Michonne finally reunite after so many years apart. I think it was 8 years apart. Or Shantel, correct me. Anything I say wrong, go ahead and correct me, because Shantel knows. She'll know, remember stuff from season 1 to all the way to season 11 and to the new ones. But it had been about 8 years since Rick and Michonne had met up, and Rick was sort of broken. We've seen him broken before. What did you think of their reunion, and were you surprised that Rick was acting the way he was?
So I just don't even, that threw me off. I honestly expected more Scott Gimple foolishness, and that we were going to be in a situation where they were going to keep missing each other and they would have some big reunion in the final episode, right? Or maybe the penultimate episode, so they could have a big showdown in episode 6. So I was really, really thrilled that they gave us a glimpse of that reunion right away at the end of the first episode. And it actually made, as sad as it made me, it made it make sense that Rick was the way he was by the time Michonne found him, because that man would have had to have gone through so much to not make it back to his family on his own. We knew it had to be something crazy, and the psychological damage that they did to him, that emotional damage that they did to him, it was hard to see. In many ways, I feel like it was even worse than what Negan and those guys did to him. And so it made sense. I think that really did help us understand why he wasn't back and why he didn't make it back on his own. So it sucked, but it made a lot of sense. And that reunion at the end of 1 was just, I gasped. I was standing on my couch and I was like,
yeah.
So this was, it was good. It was really good.
All right. So why do you think it was worse than what Negan did?
I think really it's the amount of time and the fact that they really were able to get him to officially give up. With the whole Negan thing, we did see him struggle, right? And Michonne was side-eyeing him if you don't get your ass up, get off this pallet, we have work to do. He was broken, but there was still a little bit of fire inside of him. But we watched him literally burn his memories and completely give up. He was psychologically broken, spiritually broken, physically broken, because this was something that happened years on end. And every time he tried to get away, he failed. And so I definitely just think it's worse, because if you remember with the Negan thing, Michonne talked to him in the basement, that jail that Morgan built. And Michonne was able to talk to him. She's like, we're the ones who live. We're the ones who win, blah, blah, blah. And he came back. He was ready to fight. He was ready to start delivering a plan. She found him and he was like, listen, your name is Dana. You don't know me. I don't know you. Do not call them walkers. We are not doing this. Get on that boat. I'm not going with you. This man was broken. Even when she came to initially basically what we assumed would be save him, that did not happen that quickly. It was not one conversation. She had to dig and dig and dig. And even toward the end, there was still kind of a fear of what if he doesn't go back? What if he changes his mind? Or what if he sacrifices himself as opposed to just leaving with her? So I think they did something that even Negan couldn't do. They completely broke that man. He's still fine though. He's still fine. But they did break him.
No, you made some really good points because I don't know why I didn't even think of it as bad as, I mean, yeah, I thought the Negan thing was worse, but now I'm thinking about it, the Negan thing was for maybe a few months and he wasn't in it alone. He still had his family with him. He still had other people to talk to and kind of commiserate with. Versus here, he was alone. He was on his own. I mean, alone for all those years, though. And then not only that, he lost an arm, and he was willing to cut off his hand. And I know you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but there was a character on there, Theon Greyjoy, aka Reek, and like that's a character. I was thinking of Rick now. I'm like, you know what? When Theon Greyjoy, I looked at it and I knew why he was broken. And he was getting tortured and everything. But that was years on end that he was getting tortured. And that psychological damage, even though Rick might not be getting tortured, but the psychological damage, like he feels free, but he knows he's not free. Yes, he's able to walk around, but he can't leave that place. And he knows he has a family out there. Is pretty damaging because at first I guess I was sort of judging Rick, like why is he this scared? Why doesn't he want to go back to Michonne? But yeah, it was years of psychological torture to be there.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about it like that either. But I still think that the Negan situation was worse. And the reason I think it was worse because Rick had other people to think about also. Like Negan would, he could have tortured anybody, and he was torturing other people in the group. So Rick was getting tortured and his people. So that kind of
is worse than just yourself getting tortured.
Yeah, it's kind of worse.
Yeah,
I think. But I mean, we both could be right.
Right.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from, though. That does make sense because he's somebody who always would sacrifice.
Right.
And so, like he was going to cut off Carl's hand because Negan was like, I'll kill every last one of these people. You saw what I just did, right? Yeah. And he was going to cut off Carl's hand if he needed to. So you're right. It was definitely a really messed up psychological
situation.
Yeah. For sure.
Now, let's talk real quickly, pivot over to one of the side characters, which is Lieutenant Bill or Governor Bill, played by Ontario Quinn, a.k.a. John Locke from Lost.
Also hot.
First, were you a fan of Lost? Did you watch Lost?
You all are about to side-eye me. I never watched Lost.
Oh my God.
You are right.
I'm not side-eyeing you. I'm like jealous. I'm like, wait, so she's never watched it to watch it fresh? You can binge the whole series? You're lucky.
Yeah, I need to find it. So many people talked about it. It's one of my dad's favorite shows. It's just and he's one of the people that got me into watching Walking Dead too, but like I just never watched Lost.
I still quote Lost to this day. Like, live together, die alone. There's so many quotable sayings. See you on the other side, brother. There's so many good sayings. You have to watch Lost. I think I do a rewatch like every 5 years or so. And I just did a rewatch last year. And
dang, I was going to say, do a rewatch podcast. I'll do it with you.
You know what? It's one of those shows where I feel like you have to, I don't know, to podcast on it, there's no way to talk about it without, because you know what happens. It's too many
after already seeing it.
Yeah, it's too many things that you've seen that you won't be able to talk about it without spoiling it. I think, or you'll just be real about it when you're talking about it. Or I guess a person that's never watched with a person that has watched. Now that could be something because you're waiting to see what their thoughts are, what their expressions are, what surprises them. Okay. So, but what did you think about Bill? What did you think we were going to get his character more, or are you even familiar with that actor from his other work?
So I'm familiar with him just because he's kind of in the zeitgeist, but I couldn't pinpoint anything that he was from. I just knew that everybody was like, oh, Lost. And I was like, okay, sure. That's what he's from. But he's one of those faces, like a familiar, I don't want to call him a character actor, but a very familiar face, As far as Bill goes, though, they kept mentioning him in World Beyond, and I did watch both seasons. The first couple episodes were really tough to get through, but then after that, there was like one episode in particular where suddenly I cared about these kids, and I don't know if it's because one of the kids is literally, he looks exactly like one of my son's best friends, except the kid has dark hair and my son's best friend has blonde hair, to the point that I showed him a picture and I was like, who is this? And he goes, oh God, that's me with dark hair. Like that's how much so I think that could be part of the reason why I was so into the show and so invested in those characters. But he was like this person whose name kind of you started to hear kind of like almost underscoring the show. It was always General Beale this, General Beale that. And then we see his son. So I'm like, okay. And if I remember correctly, his son, I don't even know if spoiler alerts for those who haven't watched World Beyond. I feel like nobody's going to watch it at this point. But the son, if I remember correctly, I know for a fact he gets kidnapped. He may get killed. I'm not sure. But like, I thought for sure we were going to find out something about that relationship. And at the very least, when Bill was doing all of his talking in that last episode, I thought he would mention my son something, something. And he just never did. So that was weird to me. I thought that we were definitely going to get more of him because, like, you get somebody that big to come
Right.
into this universe and then this is how you use him. I don't know if maybe they're setting him up for like a Tales episode or
Maybe.
Yeah.
if, maybe we'll get some other sorts of flashbacks if they do like a season 2. I'm not really sure, but I was surprised that they used him so little. But it also was effective because everything about the CRM is supposed to be mysterious. So for us not to know too much was okay too.
Now I watched The World Beyond season 1 hard, and I loved it. I actually said,
Mhm.
"Hey, go watch it." I loved it, and then season 2, I keep going back and I'll watch like half an episode, or maybe finish. I'm like probably 2 episodes into season 2, maybe 2 or 3. So I didn't realize that Bill was talked about, or maybe that was just not a name I knew to even think of. But now I'm interested to see which of those kids was his son. Like I remember the name Cyrus. I remember the couple of the boys. There was like a scared boy and another troubled boy. But yeah, I do know, not to go all over the place, I know Jadis because it showed in the flashback on the season episode 5, I believe it was. Whenever Jadis died, yeah, episode 5, it showed her kill that lady from World Beyond. So I was like, dang, and now I know that lady's dead.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I see Jadis killed her. But yeah.
And I was really surprised that none of those kids popped up
Okay.
because they played such a role. So there's so much that's kind of left out there. So I just wonder what they're going to do with that, or if we're just kind of supposed to live in Gimple world and just forget they exist.
Yeah, just like struggle braids. We
Yeah.
didn't
Can we get a struggle? Can we discuss? Where the hell is he? I was like, we're going to get a struggle braids. We're going to get a struggle braids. And every time they would zoom in on
Yeah, I
somebody's
thought we
like
were.
masked face, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be struggle braids. Nope.
It would have made so much sense to have him just be part of the CRM, maybe even just living a happy life, just thinking back to how Heath was, aka Struggle Braids. Just he was a nice, positive person. Remember, he didn't want to kill when they killed the Saviors and everything like that. So I would have liked seeing him in CRM, and then him and Rick passing each other, and both their eyes get wide open, like, what the fuck? Like, you're here, and kind of not talk. And then maybe have another quick scene where they chat. Like, just give us some, they could have given us some
bring him in
closure.
for a brief moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like they even could have had it. See, clearly I wasn't invited to the writer's room that day. They could have had it so that Struggle Braids was the one that told Okafor, look, this guy, you want this guy. Like that would have made more sense as opposed to it being that Okafor was just this all-knowing guy who took one look at Rick and was like, he's going to be somebody. Like what if Struggle Braids, who's been there longer, had Okafor's ear and was like, I knew this guy way back when. You want him to help with your mission. So, I don't know. Give the people what they want, damn it.
Yeah.
We need to see Struggle Braids.
And speaking of Okafor, I'm finding it hard to believe that Okafor had all those meetings with Pearl and Rick, and they never discussed the briefing. Well, like, what were they discussing in those meetings?
Yeah, why didn't he tell them the echelon briefing if he was willing to bring them in and tell them enough that, hey, I'm trying to change things? Why? What's the whole, okay, but I'm not going to tell them the echelon briefing until they're ready. Why? Yeah, tell them the echelon briefing.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me because if you're trying to tell me that I want to basically raise you to be somebody to fight the man from the inside, you need to tell me what we're fighting and why we're fighting. Like you have to tell me what this plan is, not just that I'm supposed to fight it on the off chance that I ever find out what it is. So that's a whole, I think. I think they didn't really. Like I said, I wasn't invited to the writer's room that day.
Now, Okafor, even him dying, like, I know his character name was so big. It was so big in transforming Thorn or Pearl and how she became so, like, I'm all in. Like, were you surprised that his character died so quickly? We didn't get a lot of him.
I was surprised and super disappointed because hot, but also because he just... I feel like he could have been just an interesting character throughout as Rick was struggling. And it's just so well acted. That man is an amazing actor. It was just that was shocking. But I think also his death let us know right away, like, oh, this is like old school Walking Dead where anybody can go and we will just rip through cast members. We do not care. Like that kind of set the tone for me, the fact that they took him out so quickly. But I wasn't very happy about it. I think he could have been a really interesting guy to have around longer.
Now, I felt that same way about Nat and some of the characters that we met at the beginning. Bailey, Nat. I really like Nat. Aiden. I liked that whole group, and going back to the meeting and just getting, when anytime someone can make Michonne smile, makes me happy because she's always so serious, and she immediately started clicking with him, and he softened her up a little, and they became sort of a family in that time.
Yeah, that was heartbreaking because this is probably the first time in a long time The Walking Dead has given us like quote unquote side characters who were actually really compelling and you wanted them around. They weren't just like cheap red shirts. Like I wanted to know more. I wanted to see how Nat could go in there and mess some stuff up. I would have loved to have seen the couple actually get a happy ending after being with this nomadic group and her horrible sister to, be happy and have that baby, and just, it would have been really nice to see. I think that I understand they had a limited amount of time, but these side characters were actually pretty weighty, and I think we could have really had some fun with them.
And we thought that about Dead City the side characters there. Remember, did you watch Dead City?
I did. Mm-hmm.
And those side characters were good as well. And then we actually started getting used to them. And then boom, it was like, okay, stop liking side characters. They do not stay.
Not in these limited series. They are not going to stay at all. I'm actually surprised with the Daryl story that as many of them survived as did. Because there were some where I was like, oh, you're too precious. You're a goner. Oh, that's it. We won't even keep you the whole episode. So it's kind of surprising.
In the Daryl, I think everyone survived in the Daryl's, right?
Pretty much after like that first episode, I think so. Maybe that one guy with the birds. I think he may be the only one that I was actually right about when I looked at him and I was like,
all right, yeah.
You're too French, you're too precious, you're a goner.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Daryl, or did I watch? I don't even think I watched one episode. I don't remember watching any. I think Gary watched all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though
you should watch the Daryl one.
Well, now that I see, there's going to be a season 2, and I don't know if there's going to be a season 2 of Dead City.
There is.
Yeah, there is.
There is.
Now, Shantel, tell us, will there be another season of The Ones Who Live?
Well, they're not being very kind. I've not been invited to write anything, so I don't know, but I hope so. I think I would love it. They gave us what we wanted for our faves, and they got their happy ending, and I completely understand the actors' desire to step away, but they left us with some people that we really could follow up on. Like, why introduce us to this Esteban guy and make it a point for Esteban to tell us that his girlfriend's a reporter, like out in, the civilization of their community? Why tell us all of that? We were really just going to have Esteban show Rick a way out, beg Rick not to die, and then we never see him again? Like, are we going to go back inside and maybe see how he's doing and what society is like there? And then the girl that Michonne met on that killing wall, like, why were we introduced to her? Just so that she could give us a couple sassy comments and then never see her again? Or are they setting things up? So I kind of feel like they left the world open. Yeah. But, I haven't heard anything besides, again, Gimple doing Gimple, where he's like, well, I mean, there are a lot of ideas and you never know. And, so right. Who knows?
All right, Gary, who do you have? I know you have some people you want to discuss.
Well, I want let me see. I have the CRM and I have the Travelers, which you brought up the Travelers with Bailey and Aiden, which, I would have liked to see them again.
That story could still go on with just a sister, because that sister, I've seen her before,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could. But, I mean, we can't get a story. Like, it would be good if we could get their backstory or something.
Or even just watching them. Did you watch Station 11? I mentioned it in the pod when we introduced that, when we talked about the episode. It was a show that came on like right after the pandemic, maybe in 2020 or 2021. And it is about like a virus breaking out. So it's no zombies, but it's a virus breaking out a lot of people dying, and it's 20 years later, and the central characters that we follow, they were like Bailey's sister. They were like that group where they're traveling, and they had a certain travel that they stuck to this circle the whole time. So each time they traveled, people would know them, but they never left that little route that they decided to go on. But it was a good show. Like, I think it won us some awards, and that's immediately what I thought of. I'm like, so much could go on with, we saw what happened in Station 11. There's no zombies. So add the zombies in it in this world and how ruthless people are in this world, I think that could be another idea for them if they decide to go that route. So I guess I'm going to sound like Gimpo and say there's so many possibilities.
Yes, Nicole Clark Gimple.
But everything was just so grand opening, grand closing. It was like the season started. We got Rick and Michonne meeting quick. Mm-hmm. We got the CRM. What did you say? Okafor died quick. Right. Pearl turned quick, like she was on Okafor's side, and then whatever she heard that was amazing with the briefing.
Which
she
is still
switched
bullshit.
sides, which I don't think we got enough of her. But I wish the episode or the season would have went maybe like 2 episodes longer. Yeah, and they would have spread things out a little bit. We would have got more of the travelers. Or, I mean, they could have made the echelon briefing make sense.
Yeah, the echelon briefing didn't make sense.
Like, what did you think about that?
I just wondered, even tying it back to Pearl, what made her so quickly become a convert for Okafor and then just flip after one ride with Beale? Because if Beale told her the same thing that he told Rick, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any
like
sense.
How you could change your mind that quickly.
Yeah.
And the briefing itself, I mean, yeah, it was horrible, but it was all based on assumptions. Like, okay, we did this calculation. We have 14 years left. Did anybody check the math? Has this been correct? Like, how many times did you do this calculation? And why does that mean that I then have to kill everybody? Like, it kind of didn't make sense. And I almost feel like the echelon briefing was a bit of an afterthought for them when they realized, like, oh, shit, we actually do need to have some sort of briefing to give him for this big showdown scene. The stuff with the kids, I get that. And I get why Michonne reacted the way that she did. And she was like, no, we have to blow it all up because they're killing people's kids. Like, they were going to save 10% of the kids and kill the other 90. Right. And she's thinking about her own children as well and the other children in other communities. And so I understand why her reaction was what it was. And she knew right away, I've got to stop this. That can't be what Beale told Thorne, because why would she see we're killing 90% of the kids and she's like, I'm all in now. I see, unless she's a monster.
Yeah.
Like, how could that get you to be all in? So I don't.
And then the
really
14-year timeline, was that 14 years if they did nothing or 14 years if they killed all these people? And if definitely if it's 14 to kill and then kill all these people, to me, that doesn't even 14 years and you kill all these people. What's the point of living for those 14 years? I'd rather live for a nice 5 years and just enjoy the next 5 years versus get an extra 9 and kill a whole bunch of people. That wouldn't. That doesn't seem like it's worth it.
And let's not forget about Jadis. She was all in also.
Yeah. Telling Gabriel she's doing something bigger. And I was like, no, after hearing, no, you weren't doing something for the greater good or something that was bigger than you. You were doing some evil shit and somehow turning it to make it seem like you were doing it for the greater good.
Yes, to help herself survive. And so that's how she's justifying it, is this greater good thing. I also do wonder, though, with that briefing, like, do you guys remember when they showed, I think it was in his room, Okafor had all those dog tags hanging and it looked like hundreds and hundreds of dog tags. And I wondered if these were people that he tried to convert that said no. So then he had to kill them, so that they wouldn't blow his cover, or like what was the story with those dog tags and how that ties into the briefing? Because I feel like with Beale saying that he did it 2,000 and however many times, I don't know. I wonder how those things tie in, because it doesn't make sense. And the briefing that Rick got didn't necessarily match what Michonne was seeing. Just, I don't know. I don't know if it was 2 different briefings. I don't really get how that worked.
Well, I think you're right about the dog tags. I think when they came in the room, he did what he did to Rick. Take your weapon, put it on the table. Take your arm, put it on the table. And I'm pretty sure if Rick had dog tags or anything, he would have put it on the table. So that's probably why he made him take off everything. Because if he didn't go along with it, he was going to kill him. Maybe.
Yeah. Wait, were you talking about Okafor or Beale? Beale had the dog
So
tags.
I was talking about Okafor, but what Gary's saying about what Beale did made a lot of sense too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if
Maybe
you just
both.
look at Rick could kick Bill's ass anyway, just
Yeah.
physically looking at the two of them. So he had to remove all of Rick's weapons and anything that would give Rick an advantage. So just so that he could take him if he needed to.
But then also, why didn't he have security or somebody? I don't know. It seems like they walk around with so many. Like, why wasn't someone else in the room with Bill? It seems like you would always have just a guard there. I was surprised, or
Mm-hmm.
were you surprised that no one else was around and no one heard Rick kill? I mean, they were fighting, so that means no one was even outside the door waiting
Right.
for them.
No, I was definitely worried that entire time that somebody was coming through that door to help Beale
Mm-hmm.
out for sure. For sure. That was definitely a little odd. But then again, if you think about people and the things that they do when they have these big egos and stuff, there was a part of me that was like, okay, Beale just got too cute for the room.
Right.
Thought that all he
Yeah.
needed to do was disarm this man and he would be fine. He believed in his ability to convince people, maybe. And he may have already thought, like, okay, we've got Rick, because Rick came back, remember? And he even said that, like, you could have run, you didn't have to come back, and you came back. So he could have felt slightly relaxed because of that, too. So maybe disarming him was a reflex, kind of like this is what I always do is take their weapons from them, but he's not a threat, maybe. Um, like, look, he came back and he didn't have to come back. So he's bought in. So maybe it's that with a little bit of the ego and then Beale's belief. Because I do believe that Beale believes the bullshit that he was spewing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so maybe that hubris kind of blinded him and he just
Right.
went with it. I don't know.
Well, let's back up because you said you was talking about Okafor
Mm-hmm.
with the dog tag. So do you think
Mm-hmm.
Okafor was doing the same thing? The people who didn't go along with him, he was killing.
Mm-hmm. I do. I think so. I think so because otherwise, where did all those dog tags come from and why did he have them? Because they were hanging, I think they were hanging from like the ceiling in that greenhouse room, which I'm assuming is Okafor's apartment. They're just like hanging up there. And so I wonder if that's what he would do. And then like where he was taking Rick and Pearl for those study sessions and stuff in that blown up stadium, I'm wondering if that's where he would take people to explain the mission to them. And then if they weren't down, he could kill them and just leave them out there because nobody's checking out there anymore because the stadium is blown up. He takes their dog tags and just hangs it up as a reminder to himself of something.
Okay, so he was on the extreme on the other end. Like Bill was
Hmm.
on one end, and you think Okafor was the extreme on the other end.
Yeah, like two sides of the same coin, basically.
I wonder what Okafor's plan was, because clearly it seems like he was going to go along with the echelon briefing. So was his plan just, okay, I'll be fine with echelon briefing, and then from there, I'm putting Rick and Pearl in place so we can start changing our culture after that? Because it seems like if he was trying to stop the echelon briefing from happening, he would have had to tell Pearl and Rick about it, and they would have already had plans in place to stop it. So it seems like he wasn't trying to stop it. He was fine with going along with it, and then just going to try to change society after.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Because kind of like we were saying before, he should have told them exactly what was what. Now, also, we don't know if that briefing itself changes. So maybe the briefing that Okafor got originally, which caused him to buy in, once he was there, he saw that there was more to it. And that's when he changed his mind, but still went along thinking that he could change it from the inside, maybe. I don't know. But he's interesting. He should get a Tales episode too. I would like to know
Yeah, to see
and
how he
see
came in.
more of him. Definitely see more of him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right. And I know you mentioned Jadis. You said that Jadis, how did she buy in and was she just for self? But I don't think that Jadis fully bought in. I think Jadis was doing this to protect the people that she loved back home. Maybe she did it to protect Pastor Gabriel and the other people. It just seems like if she bought in completely, she would have been told about him.
Yeah, she would have told
Yeah,
him
she would have been said,
or
well,
killed him.
yeah, or killed him. She would have been said, hey, I know this group out here. So I wonder if Jadis was there to protect the group. What Rick should have been there to do, or what Rick said he was going to be there to do. I wonder was Jadis really trying to do it?
I mean, she was definitely conflicted because she kept going back, but then she pulled her gun on Gabriel when he
Yeah.
was trying to convince her, like,
You're
listen,
right.
just stay or whatever it was that he told her. So I don't know. It's an interesting thought. And it could be both. I think that she was conflicted. I think especially Gabriel, like Rick and Michonne were definitely trying to bring her into the community and have people trust her. But Gabriel was the one that really did it the soonest. And so she took his last name. So she definitely had feelings for him and would want to protect him. But I mean, she also wasn't helping with food.
She took Gabriel's last name?
Yeah, Gabriel Stokes. That's Jadis is going as Jadis Stokes.
I did not even put that together. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Wow.
She's so weird.
He's sort of in a love triangle, or was in a love triangle, and did he even know it? Because with him, Rosita, and Jadis. And if Rosita was still alive, I've been like, that's effed up, because Rosita had her own little love triangle years before. So
I think your people are limited, Nicole.
Yeah.
None of us are gonna be here, so you got to get in where you can.
Yep.
Yeah, I think she was definitely conflicted, but at least in the very beginning, even before she would have had any of those briefings and stuff, she was obviously doing things so that she and her little junkyard people could survive. And, she was in constant communication with them because she almost gave them Negan. Remember, he saw the helicopter. She almost gave them Pastor Gabriel. And then she ends up giving them Rick. And we're to assume that she gave him struggle braids and who knows however many people. Like, she was snatching up all these years for pure survival. She didn't have a briefing then.
Right.
Then she has a briefing, and this briefing, if you believe in the briefing, now you can believe that all that bad stuff that you did, you were actually doing for the greater good because of this echelon briefing. So I think she was using it to kind of assuage her own guilt. But she's not someone that I think I would have ever trusted.
Yeah.
She's nuts. Like, she's nuts.
She's nuts.
Yeah.
And because she was going by Jadis, and I'm like, wait, Jadis was her name when she was with the trash can people. She turned into Anne when she joined the group. And even though she was saying, I'm not that person anymore, which one? You're not the semi-normal one that became Anne, but you are the Jadis one that was talking in broken language. Like, come on.
God.
All right, so we did get a brief moment of Judith and RJ, and they kept the same actors. Judith looked older. And did you see, okay, so I haven't looked it up, but I've seen the trailers for a movie. I want to say it's Chris Evans or somebody's in the movie with Judith. I said, is that Judith? I keep seeing the trailer pop up, but I'm like, I don't look it up. But I think you know what I'm talking about. That is her, right?
I saw it.
Okay.
Is it Chris? Oh, Lord, you know how I feel about Chris Evans. Is it Chris Evans or is it?
Oh, is it Chris Pratt?
It's one of those guys.
It's
one of those
them.
Like guys from
Marvel,
the MCU.
One of those guys, DC. Oh, it might be Ryan Reynolds. Now that I'm saying it,
I think you're right.
It's one of those guys.
I think you're right. Yeah. It looks like. I mean, she's so good.
Yeah,
and she's all grown
up.
Look
at her, getting some roles, getting a movie. Yeah, good for her.
And what did you guys think about like Judith and RJ? Like, obviously, it was good to see them, but what were your thoughts? Because of course, people online are horrifying beings, and they were saying awful things. But like, what did you guys think about
kids?
it?
They were. I mean, why am I surprised?
Girl.
Why am I acting surprised? I don't get what people would say about the kids. What would they say about them?
So you know how we'll always laugh and joke like, "Ooh, they just always forget that RJ's the only, like genetic Grimes left on the show, and like we love RJ, right?" People are saying just the opposite. Like, they were talking trash about the kid as an actor. They were talking about how he looks. It was awful. People are so sick. But what were your thoughts when you saw them, like how big they'd gotten and the whole reunion?
Yeah, we were happy they used the same characters.
Yeah, I was happy to see the same kids.
We were happy to see Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
And RJ, his acting could have been a little better, but he was not on a Judith level. We weren't seeing him fight and do all this stuff. And so what his capabilities of an actor, they were fine for that role. Now, if they want to expand his role, then yeah, he is going to need some more training and everything like that. But for what he had to do, it was perfectly fine. Yeah, but that's the only thing that I can see someone saying like, okay, he could have did things a little different. His acting could have been a little better. But I mean, like you said, he did fine for the role for that part.
Yeah. So, and there's things you can say in the privacy of your home versus typing it out online when you're still talking about a child. Even though, yes, his acting may not be, at the level that Judith is. She might be older than him, and this might be his first role.
And she's been doing it a lot longer.
Yeah, she's been doing it longer. Like, you have to be careful what you say online. Like, you're talking still about other humans, and then not only just other humans, this is a child, regardless of, I don't know how that boy is. I know he's a child. I know he's a boy. So you be careful how you speak about someone.
It was pissing me off. I was like, let me log off. I said in 2024, I wasn't going to argue with stupid people. So let me log off. But yeah, people had thoughts for sure.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. I was happy to see him.
Yeah, I was happy to see him. The only thing I thought was funny or weird, I was like, okay, they just popped up out of nowhere. They're like, Mom! and then it's like they almost acted like Rick wasn't there. Like, they were hugging Michonne, and then afterwards it's like, oh yes, and here's your dad. Like, Rick was just standing there awkward like the whole time. I was like, okay.
You don't understand that Rick and RJ, they don't know each other.
Yeah.
Like at all.
Yeah, Rick, he knows that's RJ. And RJ may know that that's, what do he call him? The
brave man.
The brave man.
Yeah, but they don't know each other. So I think that part was realistic. Like, okay, I'm going to wait for the introduction.
Yeah.
What was Rick going to say? Hey, young man, I'm your dad.
The critique I will have for RJ, and it's not the actor, it's more of the character, or of how they decide to go with that character. He does seem very young and just like a child. He seems like a child, and I would think or expect for someone to have grown up in that world, and especially your mom and dad being who they are, and the other adults surrounding you, that he's not more, that he isn't more like how Judith was, or like some of the other kids that are stronger.
You're wrong though. He didn't grow up in that world.
He grew up in that world.
He grew up in the Commonwealth world. He grew up in a world with the.
Oh yeah, he went from Alexandria to Commonwealth. You're right.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so he hasn't been outside the walls.
Right.
You're right. Okay, having to live and
scavenge. You have to remember that Judith, she didn't have to be a part of the war when the Saviors came, but she was ready. She wanted to help.
Judith, now think about it, grew up in Alexandria too. Remember when they brought Judith to Alexandria, she was still a baby. She was like laying down. She was like a toddler at best.
But I'm saying in Alexandria, there's a lot of things that happen.
That's true.
They got attacked by not only the Saviors, they got attacked by, what are the other group called?
Oh, the wolves.
Wolf people, the wolves. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they've been through a lot.
He's a lot like Aaron's daughter, Gracie.
I was just thinking that Aaron's daughter, yeah.
And how scary she always is, just standing there shrieking instead of actually doing things. So for whatever reason, that generation, which is weird because I think Gracie's supposed to be maybe a little bit younger than Judith, but it's almost like there was this cutoff, and that generation of kids are just softer than like Herschel and Judith.
Yeah.
Because Herschel never had to live out on, well, he did end up having to live out on the road, but like when he was born, they had walls and stuff, like the Savior stuff had just ended. And she did take him out on the road, but he's a little more hardcore like Judith.
Yeah.
I would not expect RJ to survive a day out there, but I could expect Judith to. But, maybe he doesn't have to, and he can just be the cute little prince because that kid is adorable.
Yeah.
Like that was perfect casting in my opinion. So
yeah, it was.
Because there's a picture of him and Chandler Riggs, and I was like, holy crap, they even have the same little dimple right here on their chin. Really? It is the cutest thing. Yeah, I'll find it and text it to you because I think I might have retweeted it. But like that casting was perfect.
Okay, now speaking of Chandler Riggs, with them talking about Carl so much throughout the season, did you think we were going to get a Carl, like some type of Carl cameo, even if of some sort? Did you think we would have seen Chandler
actually?
Riggs?
I thought that maybe it would be one of those things with like Rick and Michonne, like it ends with them sitting on the porch at their house in Alexandria and like Rick kind of looking off into the distance, just like they showed that flash of like Rick walking with little Carl and they're like holding hands and then they had the little Carl disappear. Like if it could have been something where you see them walking down, like he's kind of just imagining them like walking down the road and it's grown up Chandler Riggs.
Yeah.
That I expected some sort of cameo and he was at the premiere, like the red carpet premiere. So I was like, what are you saying there, Chandler Riggs? Are you He will be
Yeah.
on the show.
So that means there's
So
been some making up with Chandler Riggs and the
Right.
producers and everything
I
of The
think
Walking
so,
Dead.
because he was in the very final episode of the main show. There's like a group shot of people farming, and they were
I
like, "Do
do
you want to
remember
get in
that.
on this scene?" And he was like, "Yeah." So they gave him a straw hat, and he's like planting tomatoes in the background.
Yes, I do
So
remember that.
Yeah, you're right.
I would have loved to see him still. Like, even just a reimagining, or maybe whenever they finally finish this series, they can have maybe Rick's falling back asleep or whatever, and we see an imagination world where everyone survived, where you see Rosita, you see Abraham, you see
oh my
Glenn,
god,
and how it would have been if everyone would have survived. Denise,
yeah,
Tar, everybody, just
like
imagine
kind of
that.
like that Sunday dinner thing that they did when Rick was imagining
Yeah.
after Glenn and Abraham were killed. That would be
Yes.
so lovely.
Yeah, something like that. But even on just on a bigger level, because it would still show the different communities. Go back to what's the water, Oceanside, and see them thriving, and just see how it's built up over the years. Like where it's more, it looks almost like the world today. 30 years from now, and Rick and everybody else can be older or whatever the case. I don't know. It'd be something cute that they can do.
They need to hire you to be their ideas person.
Yeah.
That would, I think.
I'm like, come on, I'm gonna bring it in, y'all. Let's figure out how we're gonna finish this and give like a happy ending is what I would love.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much that's unanswered. Like the new Alexandria. They said they don't have any food. No, they're at Hilltop.
Wherever Gabriel is, he's
Yeah,
saying
they're
that
saying
the
they
kids
don't-
are hungry.
The
So
kids
what do
are
you
hungry.
think
They
about
don't have
that?
any food.
Yeah, how are they
I
hungry?
think it would have been nice for somebody to give us like a timeline. I thought about one, and then I was going to start writing it, and then I had to shuttle the kid hither and thither for his activities, and I never got back to it. But I think what we were seeing is like that first time that she shows up, that Jada shows up to see Pastor Gabriel, right? I think that is when they are still at Alexandria. I think at that point they still have the walls up, and I don't think the Whisperers have attacked yet. I think that second time that we see him see her, which is supposed to be, so the first time was 3 years in the past, so now we're 2 years back. He mentions that the walls are down. They had trouble with the group. I don't know if he mentioned that they wore skins or if that's just, I just kind of assumed that's what it was. But remember, they took that herd to Alexandria. And then that came through.
Rick
Right.
wasn't there when the Whisperers.
No.
Mm-mm.
So he doesn't even know about
Or
Jesus
Jesus.
and
He doesn't know about like how any of those people died. Henry, none of them.
oh wow.
Tara, like
What
nobody.
if Michonne, like the way home, she had to tell him like okay, let me tell you all the bullshit that's happened. Like that's sad to hear so many people die.
Yeah, because it's a long list. Like if we were to really sit down and think about it, a lot of people died while he was gone. Some people he didn't know, so he doesn't care, like Luke.
Right.
But like Tara, Rosita, Jesus.
Wait, did you
Who
say
else?
Luke?
Yeah. Remember Luke, the one from
I know
he's
Luke with the blazer.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
dies?
In the last, if it wasn't the very last episode, it was the penultimate episode. But I think he was one of the ones that died in that very last episode.
Was he protecting his new girlfriend? It was the girl. No, he had left the girlfriend for a second to go help out or something.
He left us to go to Oceanside with her. And then when something came through and like destroyed Oceanside, and then suddenly they found him on the road, and then they were all together, and then she got attacked. He got attacked trying to help her. And then the rest of the group was able to pull him away, but he died. Like they amputated his leg, but he died.
Oh, yes, I remember.
It was like the same time that Judith got shot when all of that stuff was happening because he was in one bed and she was in the other bed.
I forgot about Judith getting shot. But yeah, no, I remember because they were all over crying him, like his group, the new people. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I think I do care about Luke. Why am I crying?
I know. Yeah. I would love to see that group too. Going back to them and everything like that. Not Cindy. What was the one that was kind of having that flirt thing going with Daryl? Kelly and her sister
Connie.
Yeah.
Connie. Yeah.
Which I'm still mad that they didn't make that more of a thing because that was a thing.
Yeah, that
should
was
have been
a thing. That's why when I saw Daryl have his own show, I'm like, but where's Connie? Why is she not there?
Because I remember even thinking like, well, if they're taking him to France, then whatever happened has to make sense because Connie's going too. And then Connie wasn't going too. I was like, wait a minute. What do you
Yeah.
mean? That
I would
was
have loved to see
ridiculous.
Daryl have a relationship, but besides the one that he had off camera that they sort of showed us
Yeah,
flashbacks
that was a
of.
weird one.
Yeah.
Ugh. What was her name? We were not fans of hers. I was not
Mm-mm.
sorry to see her go.
Yeah, what was that group she was with?
It was like a religious fanatics group.
They were real culty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were real culty. Yeah.
Um, wow, I'm having a senior moment. Reapers, the Reapers.
The
The
Reapers.
Reapers.
The
Yeah.
Reapers. They were the Reapers. I was about to say like the Grim Reaper. Like, I don't know. And then they had that main guy, like Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was so dumb.
So dumb, all of it.
it
That was just dumb. Such a waste. But because remember, they started off so hardcore.
Yeah.
And then it was like, seriously?
And
It's
they
just a
seemed
bunch of
so
like-
organized at first, and then
They
it
were.
just quickly went downhill.
It's always like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they start off organized, they start off scary,
Yeah.
and then after a while, like Alpha,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
they start off organized, scary, and then you find out it's for a stupid reason.
Yeah.
They get dumb after that.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we're on villains, unless we have anything else from the ones who live, just in case this is our last The Walking Dead. Well, this is still not even the original cast, but either way, out of all the shows, whether we all watched them or not, favorite villain. Who's your favorite villain of all time?
I don't know. Somebody else is going to have to go first. I've got to run through all the villains because some were big bads that really were not big bads. So I got to think about that one.
I think the only real villain we had was Negan.
That was I was going to say Negan was my scary. Is it scary? And then it became annoying because it was going on too long. I was like, this is sad. Like, I don't want to watch this sad stuff every week. But
Because if you
Negan's
think
great.
about Alpha, yeah, they were scary, but some of this we brought on ourselves. Because she was willing to leave us alone. She said, as long as y'all stay over there, we stay over here, there's nothing to worry about.
But they had to cross. I can't remember why. They had to cross for a reason.
The weather.
Oh, yeah. So she was being unreasonable in that sense.
Yeah, she wasn't even there. So like,
Yeah, she
why are
wasn't
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you saw some frozen footprints. Like, why are you?
Right.
Yeah,
Why do you care? Yeah.
But I kind of feel her on that. Like, this is kind of disrespectful. This is kind of disrespectful at this point. You walked in my house after I told you not to.
I don't know. I mean, they were the scariest at first. Like, when we didn't know, when Jesus got killed, I remember I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, I was freaking out. So.
Yeah, they were the scariest.
But then Negan was the one who was like, it felt like finally, like, damn, we came upon people that we cannot beat. You know?
I have to agree with you guys on the Negan one. And I think maybe he didn't pop in my head right away because of how it drug out through season 8 when that was not necessary. So it became annoying.
Yeah.
But even the lead up to him was crazy. And that was the first season that I watched in real time. So everybody in my family was watching, all my friends were watching, and I was like, this is dumb. I'm not watching it. And then my dad was like, just sit down, watch. He actually had me watch an episode of Fear first. So like you all know I can't stand that show. But the Fear was actually the gateway to me watching the main show. So I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of Fear, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I'll set a recording. Let me check out Walking Dead on Netflix. And when I tell you guys, I binged seasons 1 through 5 I started after Labor Day weekend. And when I finished, I still had to wait a week and a half before season 6 premiered live. That's how I hammered through those seasons. And I had a toddler at the time, and I made it work. So this is the first season where I'm like, okay, every Sunday, I'm like, oh my God, okay, here we go. Here we go. And because I knew people who read the comics, I'd heard Negan. Oh, he's the worst. He does this. He does that. And so when they started dropping those little nuggets throughout that first part of season 6, and you start hearing like, your stuff now belongs to Negan. And then boom, screen goes black. And I'm like, oh my God. And then to just see how it all just kept escalating. And that final episode when they're running at every turn, they're losing. And we're not used to that. We're used to, oh gosh, this is really bad. But boom, somehow we kill all the cannibals. Oh God, this is really bad. But boom, somehow we do kill the governor and our group gets back together. Like they've been winning. It was to the point that I could not even like look at the television head on. I had to turn my back and watch it through the mirror over my bookcase in the living room and like watch the reflection. And then I couldn't take it anymore. So I left the living room and I was peeking around the corner like this at the television, hands sweating, like shaky. I could not take it at every turn. It was roadblock after roadblock.
Yeah.
And then Negan comes out of that RV. It was just the best introduction, the most terrifying introduction, the most entertaining, masterfully crafted introduction of a villain I have ever seen on television. And honestly, episode 4 of The Ones Who Live has knocked that season 6, episode 16 cliffhanger episode off of the title of being the best episode of television I've ever watched. Like literally, that was the best episode of TV I'd ever seen until I saw episode 4 of The Ones Who Live, the one that Denai Guerrero wrote.
Yeah.
Then
When they're in the
flip-flopped.
room, they're in that, when they first jump off the helicopter, that episode after that helicopter jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like literally. And
Where
so
they
you guys are
argue,
absolutely
fight,
right.
and
Oof. It makes
that was an
sweet love.
intense episode.
It was
But
so
I don't
good.
know. I don't know. With you even talking now about that Rick scene, my like I was picturing the scene in my head. I was picturing how we felt watching it. I remember that was an exciting, those seasons of Walking Dead, from Terminus to Carol killing Terminus, helping them kill Terminus, to them killing the Terminus people, all of that, to Alexandria, to this was prime time Walking Dead. This was when I remember the trailers, I would get so excited from the trailers. I was obsessed. I would watch trailers over and over, waiting for the next season. I couldn't wait for Sunday nights, where I would say after the Negan stuff, Negan was just, they broke me. They went too far and too long with Negan. I'm like, okay, y'all broke us. And I think it started getting a little bit like, and then even when the new seasons, it was just like, yeah, okay, Walking Dead, but to give this show the props that it deserves, those first 6-7 seasons were excellent. Were excellent TV. And then, we had a few rough ones, but season 9 was good too. Season 9 was a really good season.
Season 8 was awful. And honestly, like, I've done a couple of rewatches, but I've only ever gotten through season 7. And then I stopped because season 8 was so bad.
Yeah, so bad.
And then
we
9
know a couple
came
other
back. 9 was
podcasters
great.
that quit during season 8, or quit after season 7, quit 8. And then they heard about 9, and then they came back. But I was like, nope, 9 was a lucky one. 9 was really good. And then season 10, 11, I'm like, just wrap it up, y'all. Wrap this show up now.
Yeah, 8 was.
But as far as the villains, Negan, and the only other villain I could think about is from Fear, and that's Killer Chris.
Oh, Killer Chris. Yeah, I'm surprised you did not like the Fear, because the first 3 seasons of Fear were golden. We're so
I know,
good.
and you guys would try to get me to watch it, like, just watch. And what I would actually do, because I was like, well, I have to support my family, so I would listen whenever you guys would pod on it. I had no idea who the hell you were talking about. I was just listening, and I tried. I got so far as in season 1 with the son that has the addiction, like him. I don't know if this one was like his stepmother, the lady that was in Orange is the New Black, and she's the nurse on Fear. It was him, her, and then the elderly woman had to go to whatever that hospital camp was. And then the elderly woman ended up turning. The nurse from Orange is the New Black put her down. And then, like, the last thing that I ever watched was when she's leaving that camp and, like, she's devastated that she had to put that lady down. And that was it. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll watch some more later. And I just didn't.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back.
Well, I think Fear was good to us because you got to see the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when we started Walking Dead, it was already happening. Like, Rick got out of the hospital. Everything's already turned, but he's seeing it for the first time.
Well, and I was going to say, I don't think we started Walking Dead when it first came out. I don't remember how many seasons it was in, but I feel like we had to binge a couple seasons too before it did. Yeah. Maybe the first 2 seasons. I don't know. It was because I remember thinking, I don't do scary shows. And then people at work kept talking about Walking Dead. So I don't do scary. And they're like, it's not scary. It's not, you won't be scared.
But what I'm saying is that we were already there.
But we are, it was already, the apocalypse already started.
And in Fear, we started off there in school.
Yeah, it's regular.
It's a regular day.
And
Mm-hmm.
then boom, shit
we're actually
hits the
seeing
fan.
it. We seen it like progress into what it is.
Although, if you remember when Fear came out, that was supposed to be, hey, this is the beginning. You guys will see. And it was like 1 or 2 episodes at the beginning, and then boom, it was cut
there,
to.
yeah.
We're in the middle of it, and everyone was kind of like, "Yo, the whole point of Fear was to give us. We wanted maybe a whole season of it leading slowly up to it happening. Not we're in there right away within 2 episodes.
Yeah, we got more aggressive walkers.
Yeah, the walkers putting people in headlocks. They were fighting. They were fighting.
Yeah, they were crawling. They were climbing.
But if you go back to episode, the first season of Walking Dead, like even seeing the little girl pick up the stuffed animal, it's like they wouldn't be able to. They don't pick up anything,
Morgan's wife.
Yeah, Morgan's
turn
wife
the
turning the
doorknob.
doorknob. Yeah.
And then the walker that made Sophia run off. Remember, like she was underneath that car, and then he actually drops down and like looks underneath the car at her, and it was like, oh, so they kind of know, like, I can duck down, I can look, and then I can get up and chase if I need to. So that they were not the slow, dumb ones.
Yeah. Right. Which leads me to my question of, have you ever watched Black Summer on Netflix?
I loved that. The first season I watched. The second season I was super confused watching the first episode, and then I just never went back to it. But that first season was so good.
So good. So good. You got to go to season 2, and I don't. At this point, it's been years, so I don't think there's going to be another season.
Okay.
But both seasons were so good. I never heard of it, and then somehow I don't know how we found it. We just binged it. Like I think both seasons were out, and we just binged it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I watched it during. I feel like it may have premiered during lockdown. Because I don't know, we're all locked down with the pandemic, so I'm going to watch zombie movies, and I binged that. I flew through that. It was so good.
So good.
So good. And the way that they just ran and they didn't look like it was.
And it goes so fast. Boom, 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 boom. Someone's dead. Okay, you got used to that character. They're dead now.
Yep, too bad.
You're moving on to another person.
Like they did not care. And then people just like running, and it was so realistic. Like I'm trying to get away from something. I'm not looking both ways before I cross the street. So literally people are running and just getting hit by cars. It was so good.
Yeah,
it was
really
so good.
Too. I don't know why or how it did not make it past 2 seasons. I mean, unless they start a whole new storyline, which they can. They can go back to the other people, but such a good show. And then my next one is All of Us Are Dead. Have you watched that on Netflix as well?
Is that the one with the kids in Korea? Yes. Like they're in school. I watched like the first 2 episodes and never went back. Or like the first part of it and never went back. But I remembered really enjoying it. I think I maybe got like 30 minutes in. Maybe.
Okay. I highly recommend it. I binged it. I don't know if you watched it.
I didn't watch that.
Yeah.
No.
But I binged. I was like, yep, I'm all in. And I just like watched the whole season.
Because I love those K-dramas. Like whenever I have time, like, let me just stop and watch one of these.
I get obsessed. So like it's all of a sudden I just keep adding into my list because then it just has to be in that mood. Mm-hmm. But then once I watch one, I watch another. I watch another. I watch another. And,
did you watch Love Alarm?
I think it's on my list. I have not seen that one.
Oh my God. Stop recording right now and go watch Love Alarm. It was so good.
Descendants of the Sun was my very first K-drama, and I remember just putting on one late night, and then I became obsessed. And I remember that I didn't even have that dubbed or anything. I just had to watch it and read the words on the screen, and I instantly became in love. And then I've done so many since then, whether it's the drama ones or the sci-fi ones. Like another sci-fi one I did is it was like in a video game. I forgot what it's. I can't think of the name right now. It's at the tip of my tongue. But he was like, it's almost like a Hunger Games type of thing where
and it's animated, but sometimes it comes out of animation.
No, it's not animated at all the whole time. But they're in a game and they pretty much have to play to survive. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's at the watch. As soon as we finish, I'm like, that's the name of the show.
You'll have to text me. Yeah, I have to think of the one I'm thinking about that I think that you would like. That the kid and I actually watched together, and it was animated, but then you would come out of the animation and the people were playing a game, but they were hooked up to electrodes. So they're laying there and you can see like their rapid eye movement and stuff. But in this game, they're animated. And they had to get out. It was like a Hunger Games situation as well. And it was
really?
Yeah, it was.
Really Text me that. Text
I'll
message.
definitely text that to you because you'd like that one, I think.
Yeah, I have quite a few on my list to
I
watch
know.
on
We need more
Yeah, it
time in
is
the
long.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts or anything?
Well, I want to go over your thoughts on the pacing of the series
Mm.
of this particular
The ones who live.
The Ones Who Live. Yeah.
Hmm. I think all in all, because I understood the point of it, like the purpose of it was to wrap up Rick and Michonne's story. I think the pacing was just fine. I actually appreciated it because they were able to kind of bring Gimple away from, his worst instincts and just let's get this done. We're not going to drag this out, because we very well could have had a season 8 situation if he was left to his own devices, where we would have had 16 episodes and hardly anything happened. So I appreciated the
Oh,
fact that they
okay.
were like, this is what happened to Rick while he was gone. This is what happened to Michonne while she was gone. Because this happened to Michonne, it then lines her up perfectly to run into Rick. So we understand, and no one can really say, well, that's not really realistic. Why this? Why that? Well, now we're showing you this is where he was. This is where she was. She had to lay in wait for a year because of what his people did, puts them on the same path. I appreciated those explanations. They told us what we needed to know to make the story make sense. And they stuck to the point of it all. And the point of it all was to tell those of us who cared where they were, what happened while they were apart, what happened when they got back together, and how they got home. I understand people that are like, well, they kind of glossed over the CRM part and you just get that voiceover at the end explaining things. But I'm okay with that because the important thing, honestly, was what happened in that final scene, which was them together with their kids. So I really do appreciate that. I think if I wanted anything, I would have loved that final scene with the four of them to be a little bit longer so that we can get a little bit more of that. That would have been lovely. But all in all, I think the pacing was good. But what do you guys think?
I agree. With Dead City being 6 episodes, I was very happy to see that. And then now this one was 6 episodes. I don't know if the Daryl one was 6 as well. But with the Walking Dead traditionally doing like 16 episodes besides season 1, I think all the other seasons were either 16 or close to 16. I like this shorter season. It tightens everything up. They give us what they need to give us. I agree. The only thing I probably would have really liked to have seen was a longer reunion, especially if they have no plans of doing another season. If they have plans to do another season, that's fine. I'm sure we'll see more reunion then. But if not, then that was not good enough reunion for me.
Mm-hmm.
The pacing was all right. I could have did 1 or 2 more episodes. Like I said, I wanted to see the Travelers, see them a little longer. And yeah, him with the family. I would like to see who's all still at the Commonwealth, Oceanside,
Alexandria.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have did more on that. And they could have took out something. They could have left out the Jadis. A lot of her scene didn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
They could have left.
But Jadis would have never, if there was no Jadis, they would have never gone back to, once they escaped, they would have never gone back.
Yeah, but they could have thought of a better reason to go back. Yeah. Because I don't think that reason was good enough.
The dossier.
Right.
Yeah, and then even where she hid it, what did you think of where she hid it? And like, when anyone ever came to a room and actually got that out and like, oh, you know what? Now that they would have threw that dog away as trash. They would never even paid attention.
Yeah, like nobody's looking up a sculpture's butthole. Like, yeah. Come on. Right. Come on. I thought it was going to be behind Gabriel's picture.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
that's what I thought. That's where I thought it would be.
Make sense.
But I mean, that cat does kind of go throughout the series, because remember that ugly cat that Michonne grabbed when she and Carl first bonded, in that Clear episode when they went and took all the guns from Morgan, and then Carl went to get that picture of his mom, and she got that cat and like kind of makes this comment about it being gorgeous or something, and then she and Carl kind of have a chuckle about it, and then something happened to that cat, so Rick took Jadis's that she made and gave it to Michonne. And so I think that might be why that caught Michonne's eye, because obviously Jadis made another one. And so then she grabbed it. But I don't think that your average CRM person, if you're cleaning out Jadis's room, would necessarily notice that thing's sitting in there.
Yeah. I thought, what it reminded me of was Jesse's owl that she was making that someone broke. I can't remember if it was one of her kids or whoever ended up breaking it, because it was like abstract art type of thing, project similar to this one. So that's where my mind went, was like, oh, this reminds me of Jesse's little artwork that she was doing.
And when you thought of Jessie, did you roll your eyes so hard you almost had a stroke? Because that's what I did when you said her name.
Yeah. I saw people talking about Jessie the other day on Twitter. Like, who is this girl? No. I remember when Rick started having feelings for her, I was like, no, Rick. No,
we're not doing this.
She's not
this
the
is
one
not why we're here, Richard. You're not doing this.
That was some good episodes, too.
Yeah, they were. He was doing everything in his power to get them in trouble. Like, Rick, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah, and Sasha, remember when she was getting the food? Who cares about my paper? That's what you worry about. I'm like, Sasha, chill, girl.
Like, I need you to relax. You're in here bitter as batshit, and these people will put you back out on the road.
So much happening in Alexandria. Oh my gosh! Now I would have loved for them to dig deeper into that one, but give me a little more mess. Give me a little more mess.
I love mess.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything. Any final thoughts or opinions on the show, and what do you hope to see?
I would really like to tip my hat to the music that was used, especially in episode 4, which I firmly believe is the greatest episode of television ever. And I know some people were kind of commenting, like, they understood why the Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree was the first song that you heard, because it's about this guy who is getting out of prison and, is going to go home to his wife, but he doesn't know if she wants him back, if she still loves him. So it's like, tie a yellow ribbon around the tree so I know that you still want me and that the love is still there. And so that kind of made sense. It's like this old folk song. But then the other song, I don't even think I sent an email into you guys that week because that was a crazy week, but I looked the song up and it was called Is Sibe Happy? And it's the song that's playing when they get into that yellow car and they drive off, and it's got like this really great like Afro beat to it, and the lyrics are so good because that's the moment when I realized, okay, we've reached a turning point now. Like, now we're going to be on the upswing and we can finish this up and go home, because the lyrics are we are happy, we love each other, they tried to separate but they failed, the lower ones agreed that we were worthy of each other, both of us, let's go, I'm happy, be happy, we are happy, we love each other, let's be happy, let's be one. That's the translation of the lyrics. And so I'm like, that's it, like, that's perfect, and I picked it. So it's like, this woman is just brilliant, and the use of music, it was all so good. Even the theme song was good. It was just, I don't know. It was just really, it was great TV. And I hope that if they decide to do a season 2, obviously I'm not going to be mad and I am going to watch. I would love that, but it has to be done at this level. Otherwise it will cheapen this first season. Just like I feel that episode 4 was so good that episodes 5 and then 6 kind of paled in comparison. And, maybe they should have had Deny Right episode 6 as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Yeah.
So episode 4, that's when he was having the dreams, right? Or, the dreams.
No. I don't know if he had dreams. That's when they first get off the helicopter and they meet in that temperature-controlled room.
Smart home.
That Greenwood.
And this is when she kept yelling at him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then she left, and then he followed, and then that's when the building collapses. And before that, I think they did hook up, and she thought once they hooked up, he was coming home. He's like, nah, I still ain't coming. Like, what? What?
Okay, yeah, that was a great episode. That was. But what do you think about going back to the meaning of the dream episode when he kept dreaming about?
That was the first episode, yeah.
No, that wasn't the first episode. When
it was.
We had a dream about Michonne.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like meeting her at the park and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Yep, that was episode 1.
That was one. Okay,
I just rewatched it.
Okay, you just rewatched it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, I didn't see it when I watched it, but I started episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what did you think about the dream part, or what do you think the meaning of that was?
I loved them. And for me, it was like, oh my God, this is like a tip of the hat to all those people that write those gorgeous fan fiction stories about Rick and Michonne in these alternate universes. Like, the way it was lit, it was like it was in a rom-com or something. But I think I initially thought like, okay, he just misses her, so he's dreaming of her. But then he kind of explains it in episode 4 when he says like, to stay sane, to stay close, I had to keep thinking of you and remembering you. And so I kind of viewed it as him kind of thinking of her, thinking of their relationship, and then almost like all of the different ways that they could have met, all of the different ways that they could have forged their relationship outside of the horrors of the world that they're in. Like
Right.
he wants to think of her, but not think of the bad stuff. So it's not, Michonne at the prison or, Michonne when they're on the road. It's Michonne looking like a snack, just sitting on a park bench all gorgeous. And, like those are the things that he needed to think about to remember to keep him going.
I like that. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I don't know what I thought of it as, but I actually like that. That makes the most sense.
Yo, that's why I had to ask the writer.
Yeah.
That was my intention. Thank you for noticing.
All right, you have anything?
No, I just, like I said, I hope we do get a season 2, because at this point we've had enough death and destruction and fighting different villains. I wouldn't mind just a nice quick season of showing everybody's lives afterwards, showing what they're doing to keep innovating and keep expanding and growing. And especially now that the CRM is closed down, do they decide to go ahead and move there because it has more resources, or is everyone going to go to the Commonwealth, or where people are going? Because I did show helicopters at the end of season 1, like people were being transported back, or maybe goods were being transported back.
Yeah, it looked like supply drops.
So I would love to see now that they have some bigger resources, what are they going to do with it? And what are they going to do with the knowledge of that 14-year idea? Can we double check that? Can we, who came up with that term and that time frame? And is there anything that we can do to help expand that time frame a little longer? So if we get to season 2, those are the things I would like to see. Not necessarily another villain. I would like to just see them working through it all and figuring stuff out.
Yeah, building that world. And I mean, that could be the thing, right? Like that could be the only conflict that you need, is just trying to combat this 14-year deadline. And we can see what they're doing to build up and how they live, which is something that we've said in the past. Like, why does it always have to be that we're fighting a big bad? Like, why don't we just see how they can rebuild society and maybe make it into something better?
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense to fight the big bad, and it only makes sense because it's reality. Because you're going to have conflict. You're going to have conflict with the CRM and like the Commonwealth. I mean, they're not going to want to be under the same umbrella.
Right,
You already see that. Well, I don't know now. I don't know, because who's over the Commonwealth now?
Oh, that's right. It's Ezekiel and Mercer, child.
Yeah,
Ezekiel Mercer. So they may be more understanding to work together, but before I couldn't see that happening. And what's the other place we have? In
Oceanside.
No, in New Jersey.
Oh, where Maggie is now?
Yeah,
right.
Those people.
Yeah.
It could just be about establishing order, like going to these different places and these different communities and letting people know, like, you guys don't have to fight for just little resources. We're here to try to reestablish stuff. Because there's going to be some pushback with people go, nah, I like this new way.
Yeah, there's going to be pushback. Like I say, it's reality. There's going to be pushback. There's always going to be someone that wants to be at the top or the head of the table, like Maggie.
Yeah,
I can't see Maggie falling in line right now.
No.
Or quick little villains, like just real quick. We got them. Oh, they tried to do this. We X'd it out. We said that's not the way no more. But not no full season following the same villain and them always one step ahead, and then we get them at the end. So I wouldn't mind quick. Every episode, there's a small little villain that we just, some punk that wants to be in charge, and we have to set him straight.
Like, Dead City. Dead City, we have the lady.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. But
I cannot remember her name.
But
it was the Russian name, wasn't it?
Yeah. But, I don't see her falling in line with anything.
Yeah, she wants to be on top. So something like that. Let her go, get rid of her, and
something had to have happened, because if you're looking at the timeline, I think the Daryl going to France thing is lined up with what we just watched with Rick and Michonne. But that Maggie thing is years in the future because of how old Herschel is. I think we're supposed to believe that it is years after they finished, the main show. Because Herschel's got to be, this has got to be like, I think that kid looks like he's about 17. like, I think that this is pretty far in the future. So something had to have gone down for Maggie to leave, because I think at the end of the main show, she was going to try to rebuild Hilltop.
Hilltop.
So there had to have been some sort of conflict between Rick and Michonne coming back while Daryl's in France. I think that Carol on the Daryl show, I think that's what she was telling Daryl when the thing kept like cutting out. She was saying like, it was like, oh, Daryl came back. And he's like, what? Who came back? And then you hear her go, came back, right? So I think we were supposed to think like, is it Rick? Is it Michonne? Is it Rick and Michonne? So we can assume that Carol is there when Rick and Michonne come back. Daryl is already in France. Carol's going to leave to get Daryl. Where is Maggie? Because the stuff that happens in Dead City happens well after that. And so if they wanted to pick up a season 2 of the ones who live, if there's some sort of conflict, maybe that's the conflict that we end up coming to that causes Maggie to take Herschel and go to New Jersey where she's living in that foundry or whatever that was.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good theory.
Yeah, I like that.
So I don't know, maybe that could be where the conflict comes from, but.
Yeah, no, I like that theory. All right, Shantel, thank you so much for joining us.
You guys are so nice. Thank you for having me.
And historic. Where can people find you, whether it's anything you're promoting online, any content you're doing, or just where they can follow you and just see your thoughts on different things? Where can they find you?
I don't really do a lot except Twitter. So at Fashion and Faith, all one word on Twitter. I don't really have anything to promote. I'll be doing some fundraising for the track club at some point, but that'll probably go out on my Twitter. But other than that, honestly, it's just random stuff about like fashion, entertainment, books, a lot of politics, hashtag vote blue. So, other than that, I'm not that interesting. That's all that I do.
I doubt that is true, not being interesting. Well, we very much appreciate you coming on here. This has been great. We're going to have to definitely do it again.
For sure.
Whether it's Walking Dead or a different show. We just rewatched and re-listened to our People versus OJ pod that we did a few years back. So, we're thinking of doing some other stuff. So we'll definitely connect with you and see what you're into and when you can join us again, especially on The Walking Dead, if and when the next thing comes about.
And hopefully it's soon.
Yeah, sooner the better.
Well, thank you guys. This was so fun. Thank you guys so much.
It was.
Thank you.
And you're welcome.
Until then, I'm Nicole.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Shantel.
Bye.
All right, bye.